Good morning and welcome to my live stream, Fight CPS with Bob Pace. Yes, you heard me correctly, Fight CPS, because I found it to be a bad entity. Now, I'm not saying that all CPS is bad, but the CPS that I've experienced firsthand, and over the 2,500 people I've talked to, has said it's horrible. I tried to add some more light there because it's important to have good lighting. Anyway, I've been doing this live stream now twice a day, 7 days a week, month after month, year after year. I started in October of 2023. That's 21 months continuously, 14 live streams a week. Now, my morning show is called Fight CPS with your host, Bob Pace. And it's on at 10 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday, and on the weekends at 8 a.m. And then I have my evening show, Fight CPS and Stop Taking Our Children. And that's at 7 o'clock at night. The times I'm giving to you are on the west coast of California. I'm south of Los Angeles, place called Surf City, USA, 3 blocks from the ocean. And I want to give you all a warm welcome from me and to assure you that you've come to the right place to find out how CPS can be fought, how you can battle them. I have 5 rules that I've come up with. It's very simply, rule 1 is that you need to get a certain kind of attorney. That is an attorney that is licensed and educated in the areas of juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. Then I have rule number 2 is documentation, where you create a notebook, a thick notebook, and you come up with all kinds of important things to put in your notebook. It's a special form you need to create. It's called an incident log, a time log. It's a time log of your incidents, and I'll go in more detail there. Now, rule 3 is you've got to say no to CPS and the police. They'll come to heckle you too. Not only do you say no, but you keep your home, your castle, and you have your door closed, use drawbridge. So you don't want to let them in. You don't want to give up your children. And we'll talk about medical trafficking too, which is another aspect, a bad aspect of CPS. Rule number 4 is how to use the internet, which browser, how to phrase your words correctly, and how to see things. It's very important that you research the internet because all your key is free, is right there. Now, yes, once you're on the internet, it's free. What I'm getting at is that a lot of, you got to pay for the Wi-Fi. So in a roundabout way, you're paying for internet. Also, you'll find a lot of sites, especially for legal help, that want to have a fee, like say $5 just to ask a question. But the internet is a gold mine and it's affordable. And then my rule number 5 is you have to gather copies of all your documents, important documents, things that like your marriage certificate and your birth certificate, and the children's school records, the grade reports, all kinds of things. Make a copy and then have them. We'll talk more about that. So those are the 5 rules that I've come up with, that if I used my 5 rules, I would never have lost my children. I would never have been in the mess of not only losing my children, but I've lost my forever job, my forever home. I'm being very simplified. I lost a job not because of CPS. I lost a job through no fault of my own. And that's a whole different story. But being involved in CPS has made me unable to get work as easy as I thought it could. Um, so, with that being said, um, I am so glad that you're here because I want to help you. I'm a loving father, have raised 6 children, and 3 of my older children, they have families, and my 3 younger ones that were kidnapped and trafficked in CPS. Those are horrible words, but that is true in my case. My case was in Orange County, California, and the Orange County Child Protection Services were the culprit. They're evil, they're bad, and I'll get more into depth about them. Now, when we use the word CPS, I call it the child protection systems. There are hundreds of systems in every state. They're in each county of the state. So every county will have a child protection system. And not only we hear the talk about child protection, we're also here to talk, also we can talk about adult protection systems. Now, so far, the adult protection systems seem to be pretty easy. They're just called APS, Adult Protection Services. But I call it a system because I may run across a place that may have a different name for adults. And you say, why are we talking about adults? Well, they have the same problem as they get older in life. You know, that's my circle of life I talk about. We started out in the beginning as very young people dependent on older people, our parents, which are the most critical element of a family structure. Studies have shown the the best people to raise our children are the biological children. Now, I try to start off with different situations here, and I want to welcome Carrie Sampson from Georgia. It's so nice to see you. And it must be afternoon where she is. It's still morning time for me. Um, okay, yeah. I do talk about people that do open the door. I just meant that is in the beginning for people to learn. But if you open the door, you're not at fault. I did the same thing too. And I do want to talk about courts and what to do, the steps involved, the steps of where the children are supposed to be placed in the beginning. The problem is the CPS always takes their children, no matter if they're in danger or not. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to, Carrie. So I'm glad, you have to ask me the questions that we'll do there. But I'm here to help you with your child protection system issues. If you have adult protection system issues, I can help you with that too. Also, we've been talking about eviction. We've had several people. I do have life skills. It's not only about CPS, because CPS is one of the hardest entities that you'll come across. We weren't born with a manual or knowledge of them. We should have life skills for at least through all your schooling. It should be at least 1 hour a week spent on a life skill. 1 hour a week. I'm not talking about every day of the week and life skills, but life skills should be a part of it. There's academics, and maybe we should have it 1 hour every day, but it should be life skills should be brought in there because when you grow up, you start off with bullying and who to talk to. You learn about how to open the door. And even as adults, we sometimes don't know how to open the door. Because once the door is open and your home is exposed to these very corrupt entities, I call them the rogue CPS, these social workers will search your home. They think they got a free right to do so. They have no respect for families, no respect for the home. And sad to say, the police do the same thing. The police have one of the hardest jobs to do in this world. Their job is to protect and serve. But somehow CPS uses them as intimidation people. Because why? Most policemen dress in battle fatigues. Because their line of work, it does involve the criminal element. And so that's very intimidating. Now, if a person dressed nicely, and I try to do my package here with a coat and tie because I want you to see me as a professional person that can help you. It's hard when a policeman is tag along. The only reason why they're brought with social workers is to serve a warrant. Now, most of the time, those are sheriffs. They'll serve the warrant. Social workers cannot serve a warrant. And a warrant is taken out because the agency feels you're not allowing to talk to them or let them have your child. There's something going on more that they want to. Are they zealous or whatever it is? So that's why they're there. They're also there to protect the social worker from harm. But the sad part is they've sometimes taken the law in their own hands. They don't know about CPS and what they can do and not do. And a lot of days, these CPS workers take advantage. They take advantage. And I want to thank Dorothy Cook from North Carolina, who's come into my room to help type and summarize what I'm saying and inform you all. This is what this room is all about. This is what the live cast is. It's my purpose to share my thoughts and feelings and my knowledge. I'm not a lawyer, as I said in the beginning. I'm a family man with raising 6 children. And I have 42 years of marriage experiences and a lot of life skills. One of the life skills I talk about is to um, get legal insurance. Now, a lot of people don't think about legal insurance. Now, I just placed a banner. Please read it. It talks about how the text message is to me. So read it while it's up there. But you forget, you get insurance for your home if it burns to the ground or is wind damage. Or if you're a renter, you get insurance for your contents of your home. You're also required by law to have car insurance. So that's another insurance you get. It's protection of accidents from uninsured drivers and from your car being very expensive. To repair a car can be $10,000, $15,000. That's a lot of money you don't have. You also have medical insurance. We all need that. And I also have a life skill about how to get inexpensive medical insurance. It is possible, especially the thing that most of you have in common with me is we're low income, and low income people have a hard time struggling. It's not their fault. There are jobs out there, there are things out there, but the economy has grown so much that, when you're now used to pay a dime for a loaf of bread, used to buy milk $1 a gallon. I mean, that was too long ago for me. And the problem is inflation really has gotten out of hand. And what that is, inflation is where your wages don't go up as fast as as things that cost the cost of living. Now, when I was young and going to high school, gasoline was $0.25 a gallon. Seeing a movie was 10 cents. See a first-rate movie was 10 cents. I remember seeing The Creature of the Black Lagoon for 10 cents. Then it became $1. I remember seeing, um, movies that were first rated movies for $1, like Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. You know, there's some good times and stuff. So, but now it costs almost $15 to see a movie, or $20. If you're a senior, you get a break. If you're juvenile, you get a break and stuff like that. So it is hard. And so I was talking about insurances. You need to get legal insurance. Now, legal insurance can pay for that retention that you have to pay for. The retention is really something that you have to look at. The retainer, I should say. I don't know why I'm saying retention. I mean retainer. Because right now, if you want to get an attorney, or not want, but you need to have an attorney, you need to, because the court appointed attorney or the public defender, the child protection agency wants you to get. Why? Because they're not trained. They're not going to go after your case. CPS has got them so full of cases, 30 to 100 cases, they don't have time. They're licensed just out of law school. They know about criminal law. Most people don't specialize in child protection system law, the child protection system law, dependency law, or family law. So they don't get those kinds of people. So get that insurance. There are companies around that write them, but it's like $1 a day, $365 a year premium. Now, I had that banner on my screen for a couple of minutes for you to talk about how the text and messages. And when I say country, I don't mean everybody in the U.S. That's strictly to people outside, because I do have 22 countries that have come into my show here. I'm open to everybody in the world that has a legal problem about the child protection system. And you probably say, why can't you say child protection services? Well, not every county calls it that way. Some call it the Department of Children and Family Services. Some call it Department of Social Services. Some call it Department of Children's Services. Even in places like Kentucky, it's called the cabinet. So it gets very confusing. So I just say child protection systems, or CPS. Everybody pretty much knows that CPS is pertaining to that government entity. Now, there's a long history of child welfare. It started at around the 1600s. There was a case back then. I forgot what year it was, but 1625. It was a little before my time. I know I say I'm a dinosaur, but I'm not that old. So for 425 years, we've been trying to protect our children with some form. There was a case of a child in 1873, Mary Ellen, who was abused by her foster parents so bad they had to go and protect her. So in 1875, we started New York started to form these charitable organizations that were very well endowed with funds to help protect our children that were homeless. There was gangs of children running New York. If you ever see the movie Annie or the play Annie, it's about children that have no parents. They're brought up in orphanages. So these were started around the turn of the 1875. We started having more protection for our children. Also, that time period of 1875 is when we had a big change with the Native American Indian population. A lot of people don't realize how our country got started. Everybody, including the Native American Indians, are immigrants. People came to North America via the Asian land bridge from Asia. People started in Africa and spread around the world from Africa. Some took rafts to get to North America. It's been proven through the raw expeditions that you can make a reed boat and sail from Africa to South America with the currents. So they feel that people may have migrated that as one way. But other people walked all through Asia and Europe and all the lands that populated. They sail boats from Asia into Indonesia to settle in far away as Australia. And people were making rafts in South America and sailing to the South Pacific. The Kon-Tiki expeditions did that. And then on top of all that, people were trying to do their lives, societies of villages, farming, things like that. It went through a lot of changes. But children were a commodity to families, meaning that they were necessary to help the family. They could do simple tasks. Education was taught by the parents until formal education was adopted later. But in 1875, these first immigrants, the Native American Indians, were being rounded up and trying to be wiped out by the European settlers in the United States. People that came from areas from religious prosecution and from crimes that they committed and so forth. There's a mixture of people in the United States. But one thing is so important. So when people came here, they learned the language of the land. They learned the history. They wanted to be a citizen. Today, for the last 4 years, we've had a terrible time with millions of people that have come in through because the previous administration had open door policies. You know, it was in the 19th century a time where people came and had to learn the language before they became a citizen, before they got the benefits. Now, somebody in Venezuela who is a full-blood criminal can come to the United States and get free handouts. He can get from Social Services, he can get food and clothing and transportation and medical and education, even offered a job. And in California, they have it advertised that you can work at McDonald's at $22 an hour starting pay. Now, that's great. That's great. But other professions haven't gone up that high. And what McDonald's, all they did, and the reason I'm picking McDonald's, it could be any of the hamburger joints, is that they had to offset the prices of food going up. You see, when you used to be able to feed a family of 5, when burgers were 25 cents and milkshakes were 50 cents and fries were 15 cents, you used to be able to feed a family of 5 for $5. So yeah, your wages were low, but the problem with this inflation has really been sad. I think it's important that people get paid fairly for their work. It's always been a form. But the children are caught in between because then they are being starved or not well fed. And it's this long history of trying to take care of our children. Now, Carrie Sampson, I welcome you. Again, let me see here. Were you here earlier? Let me see here. Yeah, I'm sorry. Carrie is from Georgia. And Carrie, I would like it if you could ask me, okay, here's a worker. Okay. The CPS caseworker is claiming that she doesn't have a copy of the signed paperwork that I have signed and will not give them to me. I have to get them from her attorney. What can you do? Well, first of all, any document in CPS is entered into court, and the clerk of the court has the documents. The documents are put into a computer system, and you can go to the clerk's office in the courtroom and ask to see the copy of your records. All you'll need is your case number. You see, when CPS starts a case against you, they contact the state, and the state will issue them a number of your case. Also, the state will issue money, because what they do is they make money off every child that's in custody. So their goal, and sad, is to get your child in custody. So they'll break rules, they'll use policemen as intimidator factors and make these things happen. So for a CPS, they don't want to deal with families. They don't want to take it. What you've encountered is a rogue CPS entity, an entity that's only interested in making money and ruin your life. They take your children who are not in imminent danger. It clearly states in all of CPS that you only take a child as a last resort if they're in danger. Now, in danger means if you're hitting the child physically hurtful, and that includes even yelling at the child, they're in danger. You can't yell at children. That's called domestic violence. You can't do excessive of corporate punishment. I think spanking on the butt's still permissible, but it's not a hard spank. You can't use whips or boards or planks or branches or those kinds of things anymore. Those things of corporate punishment are gone. So what has happened is you got an agency that's corrupt. And one of the things they do is they don't want to provide information. Now, anything you receive, you hang on to it and put it in your notebook. And you put it in your notebook. That's my rule number 2. You need to use tabs. And each of those tabs you have them labeled so you can find things. You may have one section that does with your incident time log, a paper that you create. It's like a journal. Besides, there's a time log, you should create a journal. And you can address the journal to your children that were taken. You can say, "Dear children, I'm writing you this because right now we are apart. My feelings are so overwhelmed. I don't know what I've done. They have not told me what they've accused me of. But anyway, you write this journal, and in time, the journal will help you serve 2 purposes. It gives a record of your case, and it helps you feel better because you're releasing your pent-up frustrations. So having a journal is really good. But doing the instant time log is very specific. The instant time log, by the way, and I'm going to put up another banner here because I think you all know how to text a message now. And I'm going to put a banner of how to be a guest on my show. So read that as I talk. And I'm glad to see a lot of people talking in here. We have Classical Mommy, and she said an answer. See, this room is so nice that people in here will help one another. Classical Mommy says, "Carrie, they should have provided you with a copy of any signed contract. They're responsible for it. You tell them before you leave the office, before you leave them, that you need a signed copy. It's your constitutional rights to be served a legal document when you're in legal problems. This is a legal matter." Now, I know that they do not have jury trials. Well, some states still do. And it's sad because if you have a jury trial, it won't be one man making a decision like it is right now with the judge. See, you have a judge in court that makes the decision. He's supposed to be a referee, a fair referee. But they can be biased. They cannot be properly trained. So that's really good that I don't know why, Carrie, you did not have one, but you can demand it. You can go to the clerk's office in the courthouse, look it up. You should have a number. Everybody has a number in their case. And you look up the number of the case and you'll see the documents that they have. And if you want copies, they'll charge you a fee. But if you're indigent, meaning you're poor, they'll give you a break and maybe not charge a fee. I know with my documents, I got them for free. I got copies of all the documents. I also demanded my social workers to give me copies. And if they didn't, I demanded from the supervisors. And if they didn't, I'd meet with the supervisors. And if that didn't work out, I demanded from the director. That's the hierarchy. You have your social workers, your supervisors, and the directors. That's how the government entity of child protection system is set up. And I wrote to the director, and I also had meetings with the director. The sad part is the Orange County child protection system is corrupt. They're rogue. It was worthless dealing with the director, the supervisors, and even the social workers. The Orange County Child Protection Service is bad. They don't have social workers with any kind of education. Mine didn't even have a high school education. And here she is, a young girl in her 20s with no formal education, very little training, is making the decision to affect your life for years. I've been so impacted these 15 years by, or is now, 15 years. It started with me in 2010. It got really nasty 10 years ago in 2015. That's when they take your children. For 5 years, they harassed me. Once a week, the social worker was meeting with me for 5 years, claiming that we, my wife and I, were doing horrible things to our children. It was unknown to us that the report that they're getting was from lay people. There's two kinds of reporters. There's the professionals and the lay people. The lay people are your everyday people that are like your neighbors, your family, your friends. It could also be the guy at the store in the neighborhood or whatever. And what they would do is they'd make a phone call and say something that may not be true. Now, a lot of times it is true. Don't get me wrong. There are horrible things that are done to children, but they're not as much as the lay people that use it as a retaliation. You see, they may not like the neighbor's dog barking. Instead of maybe asking the neighbor, "Hi there, neighbor, is there any way that you can take care of your dog's barking?" And if they say gruff or say rude things, just say, "Well, thank you, neighbor." And then what you can do is you can contact not CPS, but they do that because they know that CPS will believe what they say. That's the sad part. CPS does not ask it for in writing. It should be in writing. It should be signed by the individual with a phone number. Now, the information is kept in confidence. That's fine. But if they attest to something and it's found out that it's wrong, then they should be prosecuted. The problem is right now is lay people are allowed to say what they want to say and do retaliation, which is illegal. Retaliation and alienation are terrible words. Now, maybe they don't like the yard overhanging their yard, so they'll call that neighbor. And the problem is they'll say a stupid story like your child is running naked in the yard, or we hear constant yelling or screaming about your child. So CPS comes out and investigates them within 24 hours, thinking the story is true. By the way, when CPS is investigating the first time, you're guilty until you're proven you're innocent. It's the only kind of law that you're guilty until you're proven you're innocent. It should not be that way. They should change it that you're not guilty, and then the CPS, through investigations, has to prove your case. But they don't do that because they get free will. It's a scary thing when these people come and invade your home. That's why you don't let them in. That's why my rule number 4. Now, I know, Carrie, you said, what about the people that do let them in? I let them in too. It's just harder. It's harder and fighter. But in this room, I have people that have not had any problems with CPS that may be starting out. So I have to talk it like that. Or you may be repeat offenders. But it is a very complicated thing there. Now, I have a new person in this room. The name is Lala Bay. Okay, I think Lala Bay's been on there. She is now telling me she's on the way to court now. I forgot where you're from, Lala Bay. I try to remember everybody. I forgot. I know Carrie is from Georgia, and Dorothy is from North Carolina. And Classical Mommy, I think, is from New York, I think. Yes, active involvement is very important. Thank you, Classical Mommy, for saying that. And I thank Dorothy Cook for re-emphasizing everything. Now, Andrew Hudson, I think, is new. I've not seen you before, Andrew, and welcome. I have my banner up. Maybe you came in after the fact. But I'd like to know where you're from, Andrew. Um, yeah, I'd love to hear about your information for the breach of confidentiality versus CPS. Yes, I'd love to hear about that. Now, I had the banner on how to be in a guest on my show. I can take up 9 of you, and that'd be great. Now, my show producer, Grace, will contact you. You just tell her one of my 14 shows, or I'm going to be Bob's Sunday morning show or Bob's Friday night show. That's all you have to tell her. She'll give you a link to an application we use called SteamYard. Um, so you'll be able to talk freely. Like if you call in, which is the next thing I'm going to do, is that let me put my phone number up there. I should have got it up earlier. But this is a live stream and you're allowed to call in. And when you call in, you'll call my phone number. And I love to hear from you, Carrie, or the other person with information, because this is an interactive live stream. Now I rebooted my phone, so it's loading up again. I do that. That's one thing I noticed. If you use a computer or use a phone, you may have to reboot it. I keep them on too long. My phone is on 24/7. My computer is on. That's a long time. And you should try to put the computer to sleep when you go to bed and your phone to sleep. Well, the phone is there for emergency. So, um, okay. My phone is live. So I can take phone calls from y'all. I can take phone calls from y'all. Now that number, just call in 626-698-0990. Wow. Good morning. You've reached the live stream with Bob Pace. Okay, hi Diane. Okay, slow down, slow down, slow down. I'm live. Um, you know that I'm live, right? Yeah. Okay, you can go ahead. So take your time and slowly. Before you go further, let me tell everybody this is Diane from Illinois, who has an extremely bad case of CPS, and she's trying her hardest to fight it. Go ahead with your question, Diane. Right, right.
Your family. Then they put in the report that they did everything right, and then they point the finger at you.
Right. That is well, yeah, Diane, I was actually starting to talk about the next kind of reporters, which are called the professional reporters, and I had that chance to talk about. But you're right. There's another kind of reporters, and 50% of the time they get their case wrong. Studies have shown that 50% of the time, these professionals, the policeman, the doctor, the nurse, the school teacher, the principal, the counselor, the healthcare professional, all these professional people that are mandated by law because of their job to report signs of abuse or neglect get it wrong half the time. That is sad to say. Now, with lay people, they don't have the training and they have alternative motives. I think professional people are lazy, they didn't learn it, or I don't know why a professional ambulance driver, if they saw signs of abuse, would not um, um, be serious enough to. It's a serious matter. The problem is both lay people and professionals don't get a chance. I mean, they're not here. They use the phone. They hide behind the phone. I can guarantee if the law says, and before we can take a report, you have to put it in writing. And we have emails now. And we have emails and we have facts in there. So, right, yeah, right. I mean, yeah, watch your anger. Diane, it's so hard. You're very emotional. I know what it is that you're going through, and I feel for you. But you all have to understand. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I understand that. And I don't agree to that's one of the strongest changes that I want to make. I always emphasize that it needs to be in writing. Somebody that wants to say something will not take the time to write it if it's a prank or if they're using the the situation to better their means, like the lay people. The professional maybe are lazy, they are maybe not too well trained, you think, to know this because yeah, yeah. I'm going to turn your voice down. You're saying I know you may not think you're angry, but you really are angry in your phone there. So I'm just trying to tone it down a little bit. I just it's so hard to be emotionally not yeah. Yes. Right. I know that. I know that. See, Diane has a case of something we've been talking about lately is adult protection services and the adult protection system. And I'm not sure if the same name, like CPS does different names. Adult protection services, I don't think has different names. I think it says just APS, adult protection services. But that's an area that we sometimes forget, and it usually deals with elderly people. Now, as a young adult or mid aged adult or a senior, you're not, you know, at a part where it gets bad. It gets bad when you are a dinosaur. And the reason why I'm using dinosaur is I'm trying to bring humor into my conversation here because I am a dinosaur. I'm 75 years old and I was dealing with CPS when I was 6 years old. And the way they treated me was no respect. They abused me. I could have claimed Adult Protection Services to look into the CPS, the child, for abusing me as a parent. I mean, we all think about these things, but at the time we don't. First of all, no, no. And it, yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Well, because of your calling and your writing things, you brought the light of the APS into the show. You're the one that first started talking about it. I have another gentleman, Bruce, who was taking care of his dad, who was a veteran. And they were actually had a signed agreement that he could take care of his dad as a caregiver. He didn't have what was called, sometimes you get, is that you can do adopt your parent, or you can adopt children, guardianship. He didn't have that. He had a kind of a guardianship. It's through the Veterans Administration. Veterans will pay you. Yes. Well, that is your opinion. That's your opinion. I'm not disrespecting your opinion, but I think if guardianship is done correctly, because I have mothers that have special needs children, in order for them to take care of their children after the age of 18, they have to get what's called a guardianship. Now, a guardianship, okay, that's like saying all CPS is bad. That's like saying all government's bad. All policemen are bad. We can't take that role that all is bad. Adult Protection Services was involved in my sister. She was found helpless on the street because the guy that she was living with was abusing her. She was an alcoholic, and they put her in a terrible place. I rescued her, got her into a caregiving place. That was my experience with Adult Protection Service in LA County, California. It was terrible. She later died because of her addiction to alcohol that damaged her trachea, and the caregiving place wouldn't exercise her. They left her as a lump on a bed. All they were interested was her money.
Right.
And I'm just saying, does that mean that all caregiving places are bad? Does that mean that all adult protection services are bad? Does it mean all policemen are bad? Does it mean all presidents are bad? Does it mean no? We have to have some belief, but we as people got to be educated enough to recognize bad from evil, good from evil. We have to know what is bad. So if you see a hospital that's manhandling, or you see somebody like your father died in a horrible, horrible way, that's wrong. And I feel for you on that. And I'm so glad you brought in the call here. I'm glad that you called. And it's so angry when we hear about this. So we have to be educated. And that's why I made the point about that people to report, whether they report as adult protection service or the child protection services or systems, that they report it in writing and they sign their name and they put a phone number. Now, you can do that by email now. Yeah. Yeah, but they're not. They're not have to write reports. It's too loosely. We have a child protection system in our United States has a long history. And I was given it to you earlier when we started in the 1600s. And I was up to 1875, and I haven't gotten to. There's been always. It wasn't to 1962 when we had any indication, and it was sad because the rules for the child protection weren't implanted to 1974. That was only 30 years ago, 35 years ago, or 30 years ago. That's right. We're in the year 2025, aren't we? Oh my goodness. Where has time gone? Where has time gone? Not all of them. Not all of them. Okay. Right. I agree. And all we need to do as right, we have to fight. In order to fight, we have to sometimes control our emotions and seek help. And it's sad because the way that society is structured is that anything legally, you have to have an attorney to work. It's like doing open heart surgery. You can't do open heart surgery yourself. There's no way you can cut open your chest cavity and pull your heart out and perform it. You can't have a plumber do that. He doesn't have the knowledge. So just like with anything, right. Well, no, the problem is that we don't pick the right attorney. We have a bad habit. It's like going out and buying a TV set or a computer. You need to shop around. I tell people you need 3 quotes on attorneys. And if you're low income, you need to seek ones that work on pro bono. But you got to make sure they're good ones from pro bono. It's around. It takes hundreds of hours to find an attorney, to interview an attorney, to get the best attorney. But that is the best tool to fight in CPS or APS problems, is that you get an attorney that's trained. You see, even people will get an attorney and they'll get the wrong kind. They'll get a criminal attorney. You need the right kind. It's just like you're not going to have a throat, nose, and ear doctor do open heart surgery. So, but I was talking earlier about one of the life skills of getting insurance for legal matters. That's another thing that people didn't think about. I didn't think about it either till lately. That wait a minute. Well, I know that a lot of people don't think about it, but think about the ads right now. Danica Patrick, a race car driver, will advertise a insurance that will protect your car, your repairs of your car, the repairs, not the warranty, the manufacturer warranty. I'm talking about the day-to-day repairs. If your car is less than 20 years old, you can get an insurance policy that'll protect the car from major repairs. Well, the same thing is hold true for a lawyer. Why do you think you get home insurance? You can't afford to replace your home yourself. So you get insurance. What that does, it makes it affordable. Yes, the insurance companies make a lot of money and they have a big chance to lose a lot of money. A lot of them do. For instance, Liberty Mutual now has pulled out of California and no longer insuring vehicles because it costs them too much. And Liberty Mutual is a big insurance company. It's an A++. Reason why I knew it, they were my car insurance. And one day I got a letter saying, well, you're now going to be, we can't insure anymore. And at that time, my car was in storage. It just had comprehensive on it. And I was paying something like $30 a year for the insurance policy. But they no longer can do because they say it's got too expensive. So insurance is the way to go for one of the solutions of fighting CPS, because you need to have a qualified person that can navigate the child protection system because it's full of corruptness. Most attorneys don't want to fight CPS. They're scared of CPS. Now, my attorney, Vincent Davis, well, true, yes, they're scared of it. And you have a personal tie. You're the one of 2 people that right now, me makes 3, that has any experience with APS. Now, some of you out there listeners may have, but I'm glad that you're. Yeah, yes, they do. They do. Yeah. Well, I know that the hospitals are bad. I mean, there's an example of me a couple weeks ago helping out a couple from Santa Clarita, California. Their child, who was 4 years old, was experiencing pains in the abdominal area. And they went to their pediatrician, which is good. The pediatrician says they need to go to the hospital because the pediatrician didn't know what to do. So they went to the hospital. In the hospital, they went and chose to only did a sonogram. They didn't do x-rays. And that's one of the things is a lot of hospitals have cut back doing a lot of additional things because insurance have cut back paying for a lot of things. So if they'd done an x-ray, they would have found the problem was in the gallbladder. She had gallbladder stones, but no one knew it. And during that hospital, the parents were told that it was their appendicitis. Now, the parents are smart parents. They wanted a second opinion, and you should always get a second opinion. And you should not be wrongly accused of doing a second opinion. So there was a social worker. See, social workers are now appearing in hospital emergency rooms. They hang out there. The hospitals are using them to do a lot of the reporting, but also the child protection system has found a way to make additional money. They try to get parents there. I know it firsthand. I've taken my family into an emergency room, and a social worker blue comes in there and says, well, this and this and that or whatever. And I said, wait a minute. Are you working with the child protection system? She says, uh-huh. And at that time, my son was 14 or something like that. And I just didn't know at that time. But they work in the hospital. So they told the parents, yes. And well, they told these parents in Santa Clarita, these parents, you need to take that appendix out. Now, when is social workers doctors? For a long time, social workers have taken the fact that they can diagnose parents or children as being crazy. They can diagnose and give pills and medicine. You have to be a clinical psychiatrist to do that. But a lot of social workers have learned from other social workers that are clinical, and they try to repeat the same thing. So what happens, the parents wanted to get a second opinion. They went to a hospital. The second hospital said the same thing. So they were forced by CPS to get a child because they're being charged with medical neglect. So they had the child's appendix removed. Later that night, the problem still persists. So they went to a third hospital. That third hospital did x-rays, found the gallstones, solved the problem. The meanwhile has lost the appendix. Everybody says, oh, appendix is not for anything. Well, studies have shown that appendix is good for immunization from certain diseases as children grow. Tonsils are not necessarily taken out all the time. In the 40s and 50s, tonsils were taken out right away. If you had tonsils, they're removed. You don't take away body parts unless there's a good reason for it. And so, maybe a lot of the problems I have today involved because my tonsils were removed. And so you find medical neglect by CPS is another challenge. And so I'm telling you out there, it's through education. You have to be well educated. And that means on yourself being educated. Right. But see, that's what the purpose of attorneys. People believe they're ambulance chasers because they are depicted. They are depicted because they do. There are a lot of bad attorneys. But I know if I ever get involved in CPS again, which I don't think I will because none of my children are under the age of 18. And maybe my children's children, they'll get involved and then I will be involved again. But I know that what you have to do is that you have to start off right away to know your constitutional rights. I've been studying constitutional, the Sixth Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment. There are so many amendments to the Constitution that you have to know about your rights. It is. Right. Yeah, I probably slipped up today. I said once a week. Yeah, I said once a week, but I believe in 5 days a week. Every time a child's in school, it's 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day to learn something about how to balance a checkbook, how to date, how to divorce, how to marry, how to do religion, how to sew, how to join the Boy Scouts, how to join the Girl Scouts, what is scouting, what is soccer, what is the programs in sports. Besides one a day for life skills, they should have 1 hour devoted to some type of physical activity. I think it should be either walks or play a game. They do have recess, but a lot of schools have cut back recess. Recess was a time where kids could run around and get their energies out. And they used to have a morning recess and an afternoon recess. But lately, the recesses have been cut out. And that's wrong. They should have 1 hour a day in life skills, 1 hour a day in physical activity, and then they should have their academics, which should be your basic math, reading, and writing. But they should also include interesting things like wood shop and metal shop and electronics and computers and things like that. That's what education should be about. And I believe education is another thing I like to change. There's a lot of things I want to change. I just cannot talk with the 1 hour I have about everything, Diane. And so far, I've gone way over my time. I've gone 12 minutes this morning. It's 11:12. And I have been speaking for 1 hour. So I have given 6 minutes. But I love having you call in. Don't feel bad that you called in. And for all my listeners out there, many of you that are listening, thank you for the emojis. Thank you, Dorothy Cook and Margaret King. I'm glad to see you back, Margaret King. She has a case in California and she's hired Vincent Davis. And thank you for the thumbs up, Margaret King. And so I know you are listeners. And again, Diane, thank you for calling in. And I'm glad you are listening. And I want to thank Andrew Hudson from West Virginia. And we talked about a week ago. Now I remember you, Andrew. Now I remember you. I try to remember you all the time. And thank you, Dorothy Cook and Carrie Sampson this morning for being here. Dorothy Cook from North Carolina, Carrie Sampson from Georgia. And, we have people that listen to the show because I try. Don't forget Classical Mommy either. I can't forget Classical Mommy. And all my other listeners are not on here. I want to thank you all. I'm going to put up the information about Doge, which is the last resort that I've found that you go to higher ups. Doge seems to be the last higher up you can go to at the federal level. And the more people that email Doge or call into Doge, the better off we'll be because they are investigating. I know firsthand they're investigating the Orange County Social Services in Orange County, California. It's being investigated. I know from firsthand because a Doge supervisor spoke on it when I was speaking to a caseworker, intake worker. So there are being investigated. There are bad things in a lot of our government agencies. That's what the whole purpose of the government efficiency. Donald Trump, the president, created in January. He put Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, in charge. He did his 130 days. He stepped from it. There's some bads and pros. Anytime people make changes, people are hurting. Right now, everybody's upset about the way the immigration is being stopped. We did cold turkey. The walls continue to be built. The doors are closed. If you're coming to the United States, you have to come with a purpose. And you have to learn the common language of the land, which is English. English is the common language. We don't need to have books in different languages or buses that you ride. I travel a lot, and it's really funny. In every other country, English isn't there. It's available, but it isn't like it is here where I will be in one city and I see Korean, and I'm not trying to pick on people, things in there, but I'll see different languages. And we don't need to or pay the money for your electric bill to come into multiple languages or it's crazy. But anyway, that's a whole different life skill to talk about. There's a lot of life skills, and I'm leaning more and more trying to talk about life skills. And so anyway, I want to thank everybody, including Diane, for participating. Now, I'll be again on tonight at 7 p.m. Now, that's the west coast of California. Pacific time for you on the East Coast. That's going to be 10 o'clock. It's 3 hours ahead of me. For you that are in England, you're 8 hours ahead of me. You that are in Europe and Africa, you're 9 hours ahead of me. And I'm only doing that because a lot of you are from Europe, Africa, England, and all 50 states here in the USA. So I really care about you people. I hope you pick up something, but you have to be informative. You have to really fight, control your emotions, which is very hard to do. But please don't stop fighting for your children. Get your children back. Don't fight for your elderly people. I'm just going to say that. Anyway, you don't want to forget your parents, right? In Europe, they take care of their parents quite well. Somehow in the United States, when they're 18 years old, they're gone, and their parents are suffering because of it. So don't forget, you're on your road to life now. Remember, you're riding that train I always tell about, and you're trying to get to heaven. So you got the right rail, that's stairway to heaven, and you want to see God. You want to go to heaven, and their left rail is the circle of life. Try to do good deeds on the railroad ties. So anyway, I want to thank you all for listening. There will be a brief message and a song from Mr. Davis's, and it's really a good one. It's kind of a pep thing. Please listen to it. And again, I look forward to seeing you again. God bless you. And this is Bob, Pace, and Diane from Illinois signing off.
A vivid picture is encrypted in your mind as the critics get in line like they're witnessing a crime. But then you notice there's a shiver in your spine from the feelings of discontentment and bitterness combined. Heartbroken when you listen to the judges, another kid's innocence corrupted. And if you go against then it's destructive. Consider this predicament the toughest, but we believe in a system fit for justice. Child Protective Services only pretends to save it. The one solution for this is worthy of instant praises. 30 years of experience with relentless cases. Allow me to introduce them. This is Vincent Davis, defending you when they don't think a mother fits the role. Is it juvenile dependency or government control? Observe the pain in their eyes. It's time for us to realize we are the last